Jose Vega has just come out of the hearings. We're able to get him on and give us a firsthand account of what happened. Let's go ahead. I think we're ready for Jose. Jose Vega, are you there?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
All right,
yes,
awesome. Okay. I was gonna have my camera on, but it was kind of lagging a bit, so I turned my camera off for bandwidth purposes. But you can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
All right. So I was in the Tulsi Gabbard hearing. I know Pasta and I do not agree on this. Now, before we get into that, let me just set up the things that you can't see when you're on cam, when you're only watching. You know who was in the room, sitting in the front row, who came to support Tulsi? And this will go to your point, Craig. That's why I'm telling you. I want you to know I'm honest. You know who was in the front room? Meghan McCain.
Meghan McCain, yeah, I know.
Oh, you knew that?
Well, I've known that Meghan McCain is a good friend of Tulsi's.
Well, I was in for quite a surprise, so.
No, I knew that guy.
I was like, I saw her and I thought of you, and I was like, oh gosh, darn it, I should not tell Pasta this. He's gonna kill me. He's gonna use this against me. But and now here's the thing, right? So anyway, I actually was able to bogart my way. I cut the line in the front. This is me admitting my sins. And some Patrick Bateman looking guy behind me was like making fun of me for cutting the line, but I came from New York, so I didn't care. And then I got into like some, not VIP section, but somewhere where I was like right behind Tulsi pretty much, just out of camera view. So that's where I am. I was sitting there. Meghan McCain's like to my left, and it's pretty surreal. One thing I did want to point out that you don't see on the camera is the Senator Todd Young was nervous. He was shaking. He wasn't shaking. He was like unsettled in his seat. He was like a kid who couldn't sit still. He kept moving his face and hands in all weird ways. Now, the reason I bring him up is because he was reported as being one of the holdouts from the one of the possible Republican senators that could hold her back from proceeding beyond the committee. And so, you know, I could tell he was very shifty. He was very nervous. He was the only senator who was just not cool as a cucumber. And that's just something you couldn't really get on the cameras. But other than that, I was contemplating standing up and getting thrown out of there when Senator Bennett started yelling, "Will you call Snowden a traitor?" Blah, 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 blah. But anyway, I mean, there were a lot of people who came in. I mean, the room was packed. I mean, I know the Kennedy hearing was packed too. I was there in line from like 8 in the morning. The hearing was at 10. That was the only way you were going to be able to get in. You had to be there early. And so, you know, I was kind of happy just being there because I wanted to see what would happen. And it's also because I'm trying to prove to people who follow me that no matter what you think about government, you can just walk into the Senate buildings. You can just walk into the Congress and just lobby or just talk to these people. So no matter who you can let me in, all right, this rascal from the Bronx into a hearing, you can get into. So take that as you wish. But anyway, that's my little introduction. I'm on my way back to New York now. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, I want to say that I love the fact that you are pointing that out. I would say if you want to do this job, the number one thing you have to do is just show up, be present. And your brand is showing up and getting in these people's faces and letting them know, what is what, that they are being watched, that they are not going to just have a cakewalk and do whatever they want without any repercussions. So I think it's great that you are pointing up because I've done that myself. I mean, I remember a Democratic convention where they had a press conference and me and Fee just showed up. We got our credentials, we got in the room, and you had people like Kamala Harris and Andrew Yang and Pete Buttigieg having to answer questions they normally wouldn't want to answer. So I like the fact that you are just showing up and telling people to just get your ass out there and participate. It's great.
Yeah.
Jose, can I ask you? So you were at both the hearings from yesterday and today. Did you get a sense that there was the crowds that showed up? Was it like from what I'm hearing, what we heard here was that it was unprecedented, the amount of people that showed up yesterday. Were you getting the same sense that they were there to support RFK today in larger numbers, or did it kind of back off? Did you get a sense that the crowd was with him, or were they curious about why he had seemed to back off on some of the issues, the key issues that got people out there. So what's your take as far as the vibe around the hearings?
Well, yeah, I think they bust people in. I mean, up in New York, for example, I know there were some people. I was calling some people to see if they wanted to come with me, and they told me, well, there's already a bus going down for the RFK hearing. There wasn't as many people today for the RFK hearings as there were yesterday. One, because the second hearing today was in a smaller room, so they couldn't all go in. And secondly, some people just went back the same day. They wanted to show support for the first day. But I was surprised at the number of people who stayed overnight and still packed the room for Kennedy. And the people who couldn't go to the Kennedy hearing because the room was packed went either to the Tulsi hearing or the Kash Patel hearing.
There was a vote that happened yesterday at the end that we saw that they had like a timer, they had to all vote. We haven't seen results from that. And I'm trying to figure out, did you get a more sense being there of what the procedure is like right now as far as the votes from yesterday versus the votes today, and when we're going to be able to hear the results to that? Have you got any insight on that?
What I can tell you is that can happen pretty much at any minute. That can happen it really can just happen at any minute. And the reason I'm saying that is because it really is up to how these senators are. If there's anything I get from being here is that ethics, procedure, rules, it's really up to whatever the hell the senators want to do. There is no such thing. It's a facade. I mean, they operate according to procedures and stuff, but really they will do whatever the hell they want, whenever they want. The only difference is that Kash Patel, we know he won't be confirmed this week. He has to go through one more hearing next week. That's just the procedure for FBI director. I don't remember. I think it's like the Judicial Committee or something has to review Kash Patel next week. So his vote won't be for next week. But like Pam Bondi, for example, her hearing was last week, and I think she was finally confirmed yesterday. Oh, and that was another person who was at the Gabbard hearing. It was Pam Bondi. She was also there too. Is that me?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So she was also at the hearing, to show her support. And what I thought was incredible was this guy Wicker. Actually, at the end, he's a senator. He's not even voting on the committee. He's a senator, and this Wicker guy is like a crazy ass. Let's assassinate Putin. Let's just burn it all down. This guy would actually call for a preemptive strike on Russia if he could. He's that crazy. And yet he comes in here and he speaks at the end and he's trying to basically give softballs to Tulsi, right? So there's clearly something else going on, because when they ended the public hearing, they started the closed hearing. Now, I don't know what the hell they're talking about in the closed hearing. It's supposed to be classified. They're talking about classified stuff. They hinted that, yeah, that's right. Because they said in the, as they were about to go into the closed hearing, they were talking about Iran and how one of the questions that came up for Tulsi was how would she deal with Iran or something like that, Iran discrediting our intelligence agencies. And she said, well, I'd have to be DNI first to really assess. And he said, well, okay, we'll go more into it in the closed hearing. But he called it classified. He said classified hearing, not closed hearing.
One of the things that I want to point out that wasn't pointed out is the fact that I think Tulsi also manufactured consent for the argument that there should be closed door information where the public isn't privy to see, whereas if that was a different position of hers, when it comes to our civil liberties, we have to hold the government accountable, so we need to know exactly what's going on. She seemed to provide cover for that theory that, hey man, there's some really bad people out there, so warrantless wiretapping, right, spying on our citizens is sometimes necessary, and I think that was also part of the whole part about demonizing Edward Snowden. You're really sending a message that, hey man, what he exposed, and she did say this at one point, but once again, this is what I mean about talking about both sides of your mouth. You can't be for your Fourth Amendment rights and for 702. You can't. They completely contradict each other. You can't have one. They're not one and the same. They're the complete opposite. So I felt in some ways she manufactured consent for that mindset that there are dangerous people out there, and therefore their spying power, understanding what's going on is sometimes necessary for the government to do that. The only problem is when you give them an inch, they take a foot. So I that was one thing. Did you get that sense there too as well, Jose, that she manufactured a little bit too much of that sentiment?
Well, here's the thing. I made a video 2 days ago. I know you saw it, where I said Tulsi Gabbard should be DNI.
Yeah.
I want to be clear about something. I made that video knowing full well, or at least thinking full well, that when I go to the hearing, she is going to walk back everything she said. I thought she was going to bend the knee to the senators. I thought she was going to say, yes, Putin's a madman. Edward Snowden should rot in jail. I thought that any redeeming quality of her was just going to go out the window, and she was going to say whatever she needed to say to get confirmed. But she didn't. I did not get that sense, because she could have said all those things and then become DNI. What I saw was somebody trying to hold on to some integrity when she was asked, will you denounce Snowden as a traitor? And she just said, well, he broke the law, but I think some documents that he revealed showed that, there were some unconstitutional activities going on. That is a total lawyer, politician BS answer. That is not what I expected. I expected, we should throw him in jail. But no, she wouldn't do that. And the fact that the Senator Bennett reacted the way he did showed that she actually was trying to keep some integrity. The second thing was Senator Wyden, who was a Democrat. I thought all the Democrats were going to be nasty. He says, wait a minute. There's a loophole in FISA 702, which allows for the untapped monitoring of routers or something. I forgot the specifics. Would you be willing to look into that and address this concern? Because the thing that people don't know about Wyden is that Wyden does come from the old school Frank Church generation, which this week is the anniversary of those hearings. And she said, another typical politician lawyer answer, well, I'd have to be DNI first to look into that, but I'd be happy to work with your office. And so, honestly, my expectations were pretty dog poop. And I was like, man, I'm going to hear it. But no, I was like, hey, there was some attempt at trying to keep her integrity, not bending the knee. And Edward Snowden tweeted out what he tweeted out earlier, where he said, well, she's going to have to walk back her support for whistleblowers. I encourage her to do so. I thought she was going to do that. She didn't. But yeah.
I will see. That's the thing. I think that this is where we have a big difference, Jose, me and you, is because I think that those lawyer kind of trying to toe the line, that's more nefarious and more sinister than if she would have just came out and completely capitulated. And I've said this before in the past. Sometimes when you lose, you don't get the nomination. You actually win because you're representing, once again, what is supposed to be the Constitution, the people itself, the people who put you there. And she backtracked on Assad in Syria. She backtracked on Soleimani. She backtracked on Putin. She backtracked on Snowden. I mean, it was one thing after the other for me, and it was just like, wow, I'm sorry, this is awful. And because she was put in such a unique position, and I've said this before, the Streisand effect, happens. She got attacked by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. Do you know how many populist right people, just for that alone, want to listen to her or want to support her? Because, if Hillary Clinton's attacking her, she must have something good. The ruling class understands what they're dealing with. And like I said today, and I haven't watched the whole thing today, I'm about 40% through. But from what I saw today, man, it was nauseating in my mind. Nauseating. More than ever right now, we need people to speak up about the truth of what's going on, about who Assad was. That's why there was a lot of people in my group, right, or people that aligned with me back in the past, that would say Assad is a brutal dictator, but the United States has no room. No, that's not true. You're just mumbling and repeating the argument that's going to be able to be twisted and then manufactured consent to always do what you want to do, and that's go to war. By her saying those things, by her saying, yes, I believe that Assad gassed his people, which is completely bullshit. It's false. At a time we needed her most to speak up for what was going on in Syria, which was also one of the linchpins to get her started in the begin with, right? Going there with Dennis Kucinich, for her to say those things and then try to play it both ways. I believe talking to the adversaries and friends, that to me is just, That's when you become persona non grata because you're too crafty. You're too crafty of a politician. And
that's right. I heard that. I was glad that she mentioned her trip with Dennis Kucinich. I was glad that that came up. I think the last question she got about Syria, where she was asked, well, you said that America was supporting terrorists on the Syrian side. I thought she was going to bend the knee on that too, but she said, no, it is public knowledge that Operation Timber Sycamore was a real thing, and we supported Al-Qaeda. I mean, she put that on the record, and she said, and I believe the American public should know that this happened. Look, when it comes to like Tulsi and the establishment and like going after, who is a snake and it's not, it's like, I've done a lot of thinking about this, because I like to listen to people who criticize me. I'm only 26. Maybe I could be wrong, but it's like, where's AOC saying that? Talking about Timber Sycamore. Where's she talking about Edward Snowden?
The bar set very low. The bar set very low, and I have to interject right there too as well, because first of all, I don't disagree with you a lot. I just disagree with you right here, and I disagree with Diane on this. I went on Diane's show to push back against that. But when she says Assad did gas his people, and she know that's a lie, who is she then now serving in that case in your mind, Jose?
She was probably counseled heavily by the Trump team and said, look, whatever you say, you better, if they say Assad gassed his own people, Assad gassed his own people. I'm not saying that's right.
But who is she serving? Who's she serving with that? Who's at the end? Who is that benefit more than anybody? What country?
United States, NATO, the whole, apparatus by her admitting that. Yeah.
Nope. Think about it. Israel.
Israel.
That serves Israel more than anybody. The Golan Heights, they've wanted that for quite some time. And this is the point I'm trying to make about RFK. And I think that, it's funny because when RFK made the statement on October 7th, and I was hoping he didn't touch his phone that day, that was it. That was the last plane out of Saigon. There was no more supporting or making excuses for him. It was over right there. And I think a lot of people right then and there, a lot of people I know, at least people I still talk to and I agree with a lot with on, that was it. You know what I'm saying? Dan Kovalik and all these other people who are old school lefties, we understood right there that, no, you can no longer make excuses. This person's serving that master right there and there. When you serve Israel, you're compromised, right? It's not that you're just wrong. You are compromised, and you are compromised from on high. Tulsi Gabbard, right there in that statement, for her saying that today, she proved 100% that she's serving the state of Israel, just like she says, because she provides cover for the opposite end of the coin of the Zionist nation. She says the greatest threat is Islamist fundamentalist, right? That manufactures consent. That gives the thumbs up for the Zionists to go bomb these people, right? And to do these things. So her moves might not be like the others where you go, oh my God. To me, they're way more nefarious and they're more dangerous.
I mean, look, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. It's like, and this is just a general. I was thinking about this a lot also, and like just in personal, right? Let's like, if this was, I don't even know what I'm trying to say other than like the position that she's in right now, where she's being told, and this is probably how a lot of people think, and this is the path to corruption. This is obviously not what I endorse. That's why I ran as an independent. But she is being told, look, do you really want to stand on principle or do you want power? Because if you have power, you could probably stand up for your principles that way. You could do whatever you want. You'll have the backing of Trump. That's what's probably going through her mind. And that's the path to hell. I don't live that way. I never advocate for that way. And I'm not even defending her for doing that. I'm just simply saying that is what is going on in her head, where she's like, okay, well, I'll kowtow here, I'll kowtow there, just to try and get some power. That's what's going on, in my opinion. So, and look, I go ahead.
I'm going to back up you, Jose, on this, because Craig and I have been having this discussion pretty much the whole show today about principles versus power, right? But we have a job to do as independent media. people. We have a job, you know, to relay as best as we can the truth and based on principles and how we, you know, do, you know, maneuver through all the day-to-day happenings. And we do that. And our viewers, our audience trusts that we're going to do that well. I think the idea is that, yes, the Tulsi and RFK Jr., they're going for power right now. So we have to understand they're not doing the same job we're doing. We can't expect them to have the same, you know, when they wake up in the morning, to have the same attack plan that we have in our lane. If we wanted to do what they were doing, we could try it. We'd be kicked right out, like Dr. Shiva style. We'd be kicked the hell out immediately before we even had a chance to speak. We'd never even be on a stage at all to have these moments, right? So that's so I think I do agree with you that if she can maneuver through there, she might be able to accomplish something, even if no policy. And I think Craig and I talked about this earlier. Even if no policy gets changed or nothing gets done at all, at least we're having the conversations, they're having the conversations, and maybe attracting new people that weren't paying attention this whole time. And maybe that could be something that could be gained. And I'll give her and RFK Jr. credit in that regard. Here, let me take that shared screen off. That's commercial.
I would say though, Jose, peep this. I'm sorry, Matt. Were you done?
No. That's. I just want to say, like, I'm validating that what Jose's saying coming from that point of view. But you're also right, Craig. Like, you're both right at the same time.
No, look, this is the first time I've ever disagreed with Jose and Diane Sayre. You know what I'm saying? As LaRoucheites, I don't think they're allowed to support Tulsi Gabbard. I'm going to look it up in the rules and try to show up to one of their meetings. I'm going to do to Jose what Jose does to AOC, right? What a joke over here. Jose Vega is now going to kowtow to the deep state. No, okay. So here's the thing. I've said this before. Sometimes when you win, get this nomination, you actually lose. Sometimes when you lose, you actually win. Would you agree or disagree with me had RFK showed up and been the RFK that built a coalition and a movement around the real Anthony Fauci for not saying I'm pro-vaccine, for, you know, standing on his principles, same thing, well, what his alleged principles were, I should say, because his principles are going to fly with the wind now to give him power, because getting power is different than representing the people who put you there, right? If Tulsi had done the same, no, Assad did not gas his people. Assad should have not been removed. It was a coup, and it was a coup, you know, thrown by, you know, by the United States and Israel. They're the ones, and they worked with their proxies in Turkey. That was not right. You know, Assad did not gas his people. Edward Snowden technically might have committed a crime, but what he did was good for the greater of the people. Like, to have a hardline stance on that. To say, no, Putin didn't start this war in 2021, or was it 2022, or whatever it was? He didn't start this war. This war started in 2014 when the Victoria Nuland, we know because we have the released Victoria Nuland tape about the EU and picking the new leader, and we have this, you know, these people arming the Kiev regime. It was illegal to kill Soleimani. We shouldn't be doing stuff like that, and we shouldn't be going to war with Iran. Had Tulsi Gabbard stuck to these positions, I will not stand behind 702. We need to get rid of 702. It's a egregious crime against our Fourth Amendment. Had she done that, she'd do more for the movement itself as far as fighting for transparency, fighting against censorship, fighting against spying, fighting against all these things by losing and not getting that job in that hearing. Would she have not actually made a bigger impact on what's right versus what's wrong than what she did today?
Yes, I completely agree with you. But the thing is, I don't expect that. But I don't expect that from her because, like I said, they're going after the power versus principle. She could have done all that. Yeah. All right. And it probably would have been like news. She would have been denounced, but the truth would have been out there, and she would have had to give up the nomination. She's thinking, put me in there so I actually have the power to have sweeping authority over these agencies. And again, I don't agree with that thinking. You know what? Because that's the same thinking AOC has. AOC thinks to herself, well, I could be an activist again, but what the hell does that mean if I'm yelling and screaming about stuff when I'm a congressman and I have more authority now as a congressman than I ever did as a simple activist? That's what she's thinking. And she's like, and I just got to kowtow.
Tulsi stood alone, though, Jose, how she stood by herself in that Congress, by herself, very little people. And when she would put up a certain bill, she'd get a couple people from that side of the aisle, a couple people from both sides of the aisle, a couple people. I mean, she stood up alone so often that all we're saying is just hold yourself to your own marketing. That's it. And in my mind, that is not to be celebrated. That is to be held to account like we hold everybody to account, because we have to put aside the hero worshiping mentality. That's why we have these people in office right now, is because they're hero worshiping mentality. And they have an army of cheerleaders out there for these people. Like I said, right now, Jose, if me and Matt wanted to, and I told Matt, let's just cut the video, come back. Hey, we were just kidding. And let's be RFK and Tulsi toadies, right? Or whatever's the word that Barry Weiss used. Let's go get access to them. Let's go hero worship them. Let's go cheerlead for them the way Nick Sorter and Benny Johnson cheerlead for the president, and so many people who cheerlead for the president. Let's go cheerlead for them, right? Because when you look on paper, they look like the lesser of two evils, right? That group, RFK and Tulsi, you could surely sell what they represented before these hearings to what they said these last couple of days. We can make a living off that. We can get a GoFundMe. We can get the finances coming in. We don't have to worry as much. We can make a living doing this now just by jumping on that team. But we're not going to do that because it's not the right thing to do. And I told Matt beforehand, I am so thankful that I am a journalist, political commentator, because my job is to hold power accountable, right? So people who have seen me for the last couple of years going after the AOCs and going after the Bidens, now they see me going after Trump and his little crew. They're like, well, why did you do that? Why did you switch? Because they're in power. And that's our job, to hold those in power accountable, including if RFK and Tulsi get these nominations.
I mean, yeah, hey, I have nothing to add to what you said. And absolutely, look, when Trump first announced the night before he got sworn in at his victory rally that he was going to release the MLK, Bobby Kennedy, and JFK files and other things of public interest, as he said verbatim, the first thing I said to my mind was, well, I'm going to make sure he does. That doesn't mean I have some secret access to the president. That just meant I'm going to hold him accountable because he said that. And that to me is a big thing, by the way. I really do think that something must change if those files come out. I don't know what's in them. Could be virtually nothing. But the fact that they do come out, I think represented a victory in itself if he was actually going to do it. And then when he did it, I was like, okay, well, you know what? Great. But that doesn't mean I put on a MAGA hat and go around saying Trump's the best. Nah, that just means, okay, well, we got to keep holding this guy accountable. For example, I certainly would never. I mean, this thing with deporting millions of migrants, putting them in places like Guantanamo Bay, that kind of stuff freaks me out. I don't know what you guys think, but I'm not really a fan of that.
Dude,
and I'm bringing this up because
he's talked about deporting American citizens too, like sending them away. I mean, this is some freaking xenophobic, scary talk. By the way, what country are you going to be deported back to so we can go visit when you get sent back?
Well, first of all, which American citizens? Because there are some people that could be deported. Secondly, I'm just kidding. Secondly, I'm from El Salvador. My parents are from El Salvador.
That's
so
right.
Yeah.
At least it's cool though. I'll send you some Bitcoin.
Yeah, maybe we could deport Hillary Clinton back to hell. That might be okay with me.
That's a good one.
Well, what about his wife, right? Isn't Melania from somewhere else? I mean, but this is just, and once again, you have to look at the end of the day, like Donald Trump if Joe Biden was standing on that stage with Larry Ellison from Oracle talking about AI manufactured vaccines that are going to produce mRNA catered to your friggin' DNA, I mean, the right would have flipped their lids. But since it's Donald Trump, it's okay. We got to be prepared and ready for that because that's what's coming right now. And I think when me personally, and I get under and I understand why we want to take a peek, but from somebody like I said, I saw her very first vote ever in 2020 in New Hampshire. Somebody marked that. I took a picture of somebody marking that Tulsi Gabbard, right? Like I saw it, like when it was being counted. That was the first vote There was a caucus a couple days before in Iowa, but the first vote she got in New Hampshire, I saw it. I took a picture. I was there to witness it. It was awesome. I love the woman. You know what I'm saying? Tulsi, I sang happy birthday to her. She still follows me, for crying out loud, on Twitter, right? She hasn't even disowned me yet like she's gotten rid of some people. But I wouldn't be doing my job. I wouldn't be who I am. And quite frankly, me personally, I've had too many people in my ears saying I told you so when they showed us who they were before in the past. So we have to understand what they're doing. Donald Trump's greatest accomplishment for him and for the ruling class is he's done exactly what Bernie Sanders did. He's there to exist to keep people in the two-party duopoly. That's why he exists. And if he's bringing on Tulsi Gabbard for that position, she's playing ball. Nobody's going to be put in that position unless they know they're going to get something from. Same with RFK.
That's probably true. That's probably what the closed hearing was about. Some kind of deals being struck. Like, listen, if we make you DNI, because the truth is, these senators, especially the Republican senators, are afraid of Trump, right? So, if you're not going to go on, I mean, this is just what I hear around the Hill. That's the other benefit about going to Washington, by the way. You hear a lot of stuff from aides and staff just walking around,
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of these Republican senators are afraid of contradicting Trump, painting a big target on their forehead, for primarying, right? You'll be known as the guy who got in the way of Trump's agenda, right? So, what was going on, what I think personally in that closed classified hearing was not stuff on Iran. I think what was going on was, look, we know there's people that we represent that don't really want to go to jail or be held accountable. If we make you DNI, will you promise not to prosecute them? That's the kind of deal that they're making, that they probably made, or, we'll see what happens, because you are right. To get into that kind of position of power, you do have to make some kind of compromising deal, whether you're RFK or Tulsi or even Kash Patel, Patel. So, I'm not ignorant or stupid of this, I don't know. There is no pretty way of getting around nuance, right? There's no easy way. I wish there was, but there's not, and it's like, well, this is what it is. So
this is what it is. Jose, you're talking about this closed door meeting. It's the first we heard about it was from you. So thanks for sharing that part. It seems like a very important part of the discussion, which no one else is having. I haven't seen it on Twitter, but the fact that are you also saying that this happened? The closed door also happened with RFK. So it's both RFK and Tulsi, both in these closed door meetings.
I can't say for RFK. I just know there was one for Tulsi because at the end, Tom Cotton announced we will reconvene at 1:10. That will be a classified hearing. Nobody in the public's allowed.
Got it. So this is where I think you hit it on the head. This is where those negotiations occur. If we're going to put you through, this is what we need you to agree to, and no one else gets to see that. And so, like the mainstream, they don't care. They're like, that's fine with us, right? But so in that case, I guess I would assume that if this continues, if this wraps itself up, they might be announcing this soon. So are you leaning on the fact that did they do everything right? Did they check every box to get that power? RFK and Tulsi, what would you be your final prediction on that? Did they do everything they needed to do to get into the club, basically?
Well, look, if you have any politician you think is good, I want to just break the news to you that whether it's a senator or a congressman, or in the case of New York, at least, a state legislator, they got some kind of dirt on you and you had to make a deal to be in the position you're in. That's just the case. Now, look, I seem to be getting to a place where my service is kind of breaking up. Okay. So I'm going to have to get off here before I lose you guys again.
Go
this
home
was fun.
And take care of your cat.
Yeah.
I will.
Hey, Jose, thanks for bringing it to the Homeless Left, bringing it to Pasta and us here at the Homeless Left, and giving us your firsthand take from the ground, because we're not getting this conversation anywhere else, and that's what it's about. It's on the ground. Go to the story, bring us what you can, and appreciate all the insight.
Of course, you guys will get the exclusive when I run as a Democrat and I renounce all my former positions and I give in to anything the establishment wants, just to take down Richie Torres. So,
great.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, access journalism. We're ready. We're ready for you. We won't ask. We'll do softball questions the whole
Oh
time.
God, I hope
Yeah.
that clip doesn't come back to bite me in the butt 5 years later.
We'll know it's a joke.
It's called sarcasm. Oh my God.
All righty. Well,
We love you,
Great.
brother.
Thanks.
all right,
thanks,
take care.
All right.